Good morning, everyone. Your morning weather briefing for this June 27th finds that there are no major changes in the forecast versus what I presented yesterday. Temperature rainfall outlooks this morning. I think that my temperature forecasts have trended a little bit warmer today. Really, overall, not a whole lot of cool weather in the forecast throughout the 2 week time frame. Some cooling going to be seen in the western Corn Belt for this weekend through about Monday. Otherwise, pretty widespread above normal temperatures and at times much above normal temperatures through the July 11th time frame in the Corn Belt. Not a whole lot of confidence today in my precipitation forecast details for either the 6 to 10 or 11 to 15 day time frames. QPF discussion this morning. No major disagreements versus what is shown on this map. The bulk of the rainfall that is shown there for the Corn Belt is going to be occurring during the weekend. Just some rains finishing up in the far eastern Corn Belt for today, and then widely scattered ring of fire activity for today through portions of Friday before the bigger rainfall event gets started in especially the western and northwestern Corn Belt for the weekend. For the day 6 to 7 time frame, I think that this is the time frame when rainfall forecast details really become of low confidence in nature. Overall, I would consider rainfall coverage on this map to be overstated, but likely a case where rainfall amounts would be a good deal better than shown by this map, at least on a localized basis. Afternoon high temperatures yesterday, another mild day across the Corn Belt with highs mostly in the 70s to lower 80s. Any heat of any note confined to just far southern portions of the nation. More wet weather during the last 24 hours across a sizable portion of the Corn Belt, but especially to the areas east of Interstate 35. Note that those rains in Missouri yesterday, any of those bigger totals that were seen in that area have to be considered as quite beneficial for an area that had been missing out on a lot of the rains in recent weeks. Looking at radar estimated rainfall since 7 o'clock in the morning yesterday, you can see that we did see some very nice rainfall amounts in a sizable portion of central and southern sections of Missouri during the last 24 hours, with a lot of that rain getting into the Ohio Valley as well. Unwanted rain certainly across northern portion of Illinois, where a place like Rockford has now recorded their wettest month on record. Also seeing some rains this morning in far northwestern portion of the Corn Belt, and you can see that on radar this morning. A fairly vigorous thunderstorm complex across central portion of South Dakota this morning, with a severe weather watch in association with that thunderstorm complex. Again, a situation where the weather models maybe suggested the rains that are shown there, but certainly underestimated the type of rain potential that system had, and our upper level low pressure system still spinning its way in eastern portions of the Corn Belt right now. You can still see that upper level low pressure system on the 500 millibar charts this morning. There it is, and we will be seeing additional rains from that upper level low, mainly confined to portions of about the eastern third of the Corn Belt. Any rainfall amounts just over a half inch on a localized basis in portion of Michigan and Ohio. Other than that, it is ring of fire activity as we head in towards the weekend. The first of that activity likely going to be seen in portions of the southwestern Corn Belt for tomorrow. There you can see some of that activity indicated by the GFS model across sections of northeastern Nebraska, southwestern Iowa, and into northern Missouri. Again, it should be a situation where coverage is pretty limited, but don't be surprised at all if the thunderstorm activity is a good deal more significant than this map would suggest. As we get towards later on tomorrow afternoon, a European model and the GFS are in agreement that we could be seeing relatively significant ring of fire activity developing for late tomorrow afternoon across portions of eastern Missouri and into southern sections of Illinois. Then the main rainfall threat coming up in the 5-day forecast is going to be developing for the weekend. Probably the peak of that rainfall activity as a cool front moves into the western Corn Belt for late Saturday and into Saturday night. A very good model agreement this morning from the European GFS and from the Canadian operational and the European ensemble that significant and locally heavy rains, probably with some severe weather, would be encompassing a good portion of the western Corn Belt, but especially for central and western Iowa, northwestern Missouri, northeastern Kansas, eastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, Minnesota, and northwestern Wisconsin again for the weekend period. Again, it is beyond the 5-day time frame when the rainfall forecast details get very, very unclear. Looking at surface features as we get towards 7 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, you can see that there is some model agreement of some rainfall activity possible at that time across sections of the northwestern Corn Belt. again, on the models themselves, doesn't look like a whole lot, but rest assured that if we indeed see this rain actually verify at this time on Tuesday, it would be more significant in nature as far as amounts are concerned than what the weather maps would suggest here. Overall, from my own 6 to 10 day time frame, I think it is a situation where there's rain going to be possible on any day in that period in some portion of the Corn Belt. On the vast majority of those days, the rainfall coverage is going to be quite scattered, so it is likely a situation that for the 6 to 10 day period as a whole, I think that it's undoubtedly going to be a case where there will be some places in the Corn Belt that get no rain at all. But again, though, given the fact that we will be looking at some scattered rains on a daily basis in that period, and the potential for significant rains on at least a localized basis at some time during the 6 to 10 day period, it will be a case where the 6 to 10 day time frame clearly will not be dry. And while some places may see no rain at all in that period, other places may see some fairly nice amounts. If I had to make a guess right now, northern and northwestern Iowa and areas west and northwest of there would probably be your most favorite area for the best rain amounts and best rain coverage in the 6 to 10 day period, but that's not much more than a guess at this time. Temperature forecast, still relatively mild conditions across the Corn Belt for this Wednesday, but we will be seeing heat returning to southern portions of the region, and heat will be seen across the area for tomorrow. And then the peak in the heat, in the near term anyway, will be coming up for Friday through Sunday. You can see this temperature anomaly map for Friday. Pretty extensive area of the Corn Belt looking at temperatures that day running 10 plus degrees above normal. That type of heat will then be moving into more eastern portion of the region for the weekend, with western portions of the Corn Belt starting to cool down for the weekend and into Monday. High temperature forecast for Friday. Again, that will be the day in which we do see temperatures running 10 degrees above normal across a sizable portion of the Corn Belt. That will be pushing highs that day above 90 degrees across the bulk of the region. Certainly some places at 95 or higher. But again, I do believe that it is a situation that, given the very green landscape across the Corn Belt right now and the fact that a big portion of the Corn Belt has rather high soil moisture right now, I do not believe that the upcoming heat is going to be featuring a whole lot in the way of upper 90s and lower 100s at any point in the 2-week forecast for the Corn Belt. Where I do still believe that the anomalies will be great will be with regards to nighttime lows. Looking at low temperature forecast for Friday, note that once again an extensive area of 70 plus degree lows across the Corn Belt. Even note the 80 plus degree lows on Friday morning across the western, southwestern Corn Belt and into the southern plains. I would think that we'll be seeing this type of map repeated at many times for the duration of the 2-week time frame. Many mornings with low temperatures above the 70 degree mark will be quite widespread in the Corn Belt, and there will be a number of days in which we will be seeing areas that struggle to get below 80 degrees for lows, and probably some days when areas do not even get below the 80 degree mark for low temperatures. Kind of do a dome watch here this morning and just show you how the dome is going to be progressing westward over the course of the next 2 weeks. This is 500 millibar charts as of 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the evening, I should say, on Sunday. And there you can see the dome of high pressure at that time located over the megalopolis in northeastern portions of the nation. Then looking at it as of 7 o'clock in the morning on the 4th of July, note how the dome at that time has moved westward, centered at that time over really the heart of the Corn Belt. A little bit later, right at the end of the 10-day time frame, note how the dome of high pressure has moved even further west, more towards western, southwestern portion of the Corn Belt and areas to the southwest of there. And as we get towards the end of the 2-week forecast, notice how the dome has moved even further west and southwest, at that time located over southwestern portion of the Corn Belt, or even just southwestern portion of the nation as you look at the GFS and the Canadian ensembles. So that's still obviously not a cool weather pattern at that time. Above normal heights still being seen across most of the nation. So obviously once we get into this warmer weather pattern at the end of this week in the Corn Belt, it will be a warm weather pattern that overall continues right through the end of the 2-week time frame, with temperatures running fairly easily above normal in that period. For the 11 to 15 day period, rainfall chances, would they be shutting off? Again, we do see a bit of a northwest flow aloft indicated by the European ensemble, even more of a northwest flow aloft indicated by the GFS Canadian ensembles. When you see that type of a northwesterly flow aloft into the summertime, it is a situation where typically you do not see rainfall chances set up, or shut off, I should say, and generally that's a setup where the weather tends out to be, generally speaking, wetter than the models would initially suggest. Internationally for this morning, a little bit drier forecast this morning for both Europe and also especially for the winter grain and summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union. You can see in the 2 week forecast there, generally speaking, below normal rainfall is going to be seen across a good portion of Central and Western Europe. The areas of England, France, and Western Germany will be staying completely dry for the rest of this week. They will be seeing some rain in the 6 to 10 day time frame, but rainfall amounts look to be diminished versus forecasts of recent days, then back to below normal rainfall there again for the 11 to 15 day time frame. Again, the forecast has also gone drier today for those eastern summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union. Any rain in the near term still going to be confined to southwestern portions of Ukraine. There is still going to be some rain in eastern Ukraine and areas to the east of there for the weekend and into the 6 to 10 day time frame. But again, the weather maps today have backed off on that rainfall potential. A lot of that area could be seeing rainfall amounts in that time frame of less than a half inch, then back to below normal rainfall again for the 11 to 15 day time frame. So again, emphasizing eastern summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union, forecast has trended drier today. For this, you can see this on the 10-day rainfall forecast from the European operational model. Again, notice how for the 10-day time frame, eastern portion of Ukraine and areas east and northeast of there now looking at rainfall amounts of under a half inch. For the spring grain areas of the former Soviet Union, still looking at significant rainfall for the duration of the 10-day forecast. For the duration of the 2 week time frame, still extensive and locally heavy rains for all of the spring grain for the summer row crop areas of China for both Manchuria and for the North China Plain. Above normal rainfall going to be seen in both areas looking at fairly hefty rainfall amounts for the duration of the 2 week time frame. Still a favorable forecast for the Canadian prairies. Going to be still seeing some warm temperatures in Manitoba for another few days, but western portions of the Canadian prairies are starting to cool down, and all of the area will be cooling down for the start of next week. Fairly constant rainfall chances in the 2 week forecast for the Canadian prairies. Best rainfall amounts overall for at least the next 10 days anyway in eastern Saskatchewan and into Manitoba. Looking at Australia, it is a favorable forecast for rainfall for the next 10 days for the wheat areas of Western Australia. Most of that rainfall going to be occurring during the 6 to 10 day time frame. Should be some wonderful rainfall amounts in that period for all of the winter wheat areas of Western Australia. Some rain going to be seen in eastern growing areas for both the 1 to 5 and 6 to 10 day time frames. For each period, would not expect that rainfall amounts would be much better than 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. All of the Australian wheat areas then going back to below normal rainfall for the 11 to 15 day time frame. Finishing up this morning for the Indian monsoon. Looks fairly close to normal overall for the next 2 weeks. A very nice rain is going to be seen in the near term for Rajasthan and a good portion of Madhya Pradesh. Monsoon will then be weakening for the 6 to 10 day time frame, then recovering to some degree for the 11 to 15 day period. That's what I have for your Wednesday. Everyone have themselves a great day.